This is the Entrepreneur Unleashed Show, episode 82, with Melissa Kim Corter.
Hi, I'm Patty Keating, and I believe entrepreneurs are the future of the world. Over the past 2 decades, I've built 4 businesses in alignment with my values, giving me the freedom to live where I want and do what I love. I'm here to tell you that creating your successful business does not require struggle or sacrifice. So, how do you create the lifestyle business you love doing only what you love? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Unleashed podcast.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Melissa Kim Corter. She's a best-selling author, a speaker, and a certified hypnotherapist. She's certified in over 36 modalities. Her specialty is discovering emotional and financial barriers, sabotaging prosperity and visibility. She has a unique, intuitive ability to uncover blockages and self-defeating patterns that are cycling throughout the nervous system and the subconscious mind. She works with creatives, authors, and coaches to release their fears and achieve their goals. For more than 16 years, Melissa has extensively studied many facets of intuition, neuroscience, human behavior, shamanism, and spirituality. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear your story and get to know how things have unfolded for you and all the good stuff. Is there anything you'd like to add to your introduction before we dive into the questions?
No, thank you so much. I think that was beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, great. So tell us what inspired you to start your business?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's such an interesting question because I don't feel like I'm the typical person that woke up one day and went, I think I want to put something together and have a business or have a formal way of, working with people in some form of an exchange. I had no interest in starting a business. And basically what has been kind of a lifelong journey for me is when things start to show up in my life, I tend to pay attention. And so over and over, I was being asked to do different things to help people in different ways. And I started to go to school for massage therapy, thinking that was going to be my path. Mm-hmm. And it very quickly turned into having a lot more interest in the mind and human behavior and psychology. And so while I was going through that, I decided to become a hypnotherapist, and then people wanted to work with me. So here I thought it was going to be a journey of learning about the mind and consciousness and those kind of things. And people really in my world around me just started showing up. Well, what do you think about this? Can you help me over here? Yeah. And so it just brought to life this whole other experience, which now today I'm so grateful I listened to that. But it didn't show up initially as a business as much as it did of showing up with opportunities to help people.
Yes, which is what business is for.
Right. Yeah.
So what kind of obstacles showed up once you started your business?
You know, it's so interesting. I wish I would have understood that the obstacles were opportunities instead of just barrier after barrier. And a lot of them were about self-worth and confidence. I thought all these other business owners had figured something out that I was lacking. I had no idea that they felt the same fears, had the same levels of insecurity, same obstacles. And it really came down to my confidence and self-worth, being able to talk about who I am, what I do, how I help. Yeah. I didn't realize what a big part of business that was going to be, even though it seems very obvious. It really wasn't. I thought I'm just going to hang up my little shingle, have a service, and be able to work with people. And the obstacle became, oh my gosh, now I have to talk about what I do. I have to let people see me. And that just created a whole other level of opportunity to understand the mind and the subconscious and blocks and patterns and all of that. So it came through my own insecurity, really.
Yeah. You know, it's so common, especially with heart-centered entrepreneurs who have a real meaningful purpose they want to share. And then, we bump into our own self-limitations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it shuts a lot of people down. Unfortunately, it can be one of the things that causes them to to stop or to turn away or to give up,
Yeah.
feel that discomfort, or they encounter that those situations and they think that it's very personal, like there's something wrong with them. They don't realize like that's a part of the journey, that a lot of us face.
It really is. So how did you move through that part of the journey?
I still am.
I think we all are, right?
Always unfolding. I feel like there's always a new level. In the beginning, it really started with a huge fear of public speaking. I didn't want people to see me. I didn't know how to basically present myself. And it really began there. And so what I did is I put the attention on others. I became a photographer for a little while because I literally didn't want people looking at me or talking to me. And so I, in a very interesting, sneaky way, kind of worked around it by focusing attention on other people.
Wow.
But then realized as that was coming to an end and I really didn't have a passion in that area anymore, I was sort of forced to deal with it, to look at it. I knew if I don't look at this and figure out how to overcome these emotional barriers, the self-sabotage, the limiting beliefs, if I don't overcome this, I'm never going to make it. I'm not going to let more money in. I'm not going to put myself out there. And so it was just a really hard truth, like one of those moments of, oh my gosh, I can't get around it. I've really got to go through it.
Yes. So what lesson did you learn as a result of that experience and really moving through it?
That the mind is a very powerful thing. We hear this all the time, but the stories that we create within our heads have absolutely no truth. And if we can recognize what's on the other side of that, it's not nearly as terrifying. It's not nearly as frightening, difficult, challenging as we create it to be in our minds. And if we can learn how to work with that, we'll move through it. We'll move through the resistance, the sabotage, all the things that can come with it. And I think it really means we have to have a willingness to want to face that discomfort instead of feeling like I'm just gonna either pay my way out of this, hire somebody to get me through it, or do something to get around it. But really, if we can face it and meet ourselves in that, that's the magic. That's the secret.
That's amazing. So tell us what you're passionate about right now. What's going on with you?
Right now, prosperity, because it is something I did not want to talk about. I didn't want any part of. It's something I had no interest teaching on. And yet people kept coming to me. And again, I pay attention to what shows up in the world around me. And with COVID happening, it really became a topic I wanted nothing to do with, because there's so many people with mixed emotions and different experiences happening. There's a lot of fear around money and charging, clients, and the entire world of my clients and the industry that I work in really became rocked, just like a lot of other industries have. And it almost became a really scary, touchy thing to think about and talk about. So I didn't want to have anything to do with talking about money for that reason. Until I realized, you know what, this is the time. This is the time to be empowered. This is the time to really work through those obstacles. It's the time to go really deep within ourselves, because there's so much uncertainty. And what I found is by actually, same kind of thing, by facing it and looking at it, it's completely opening up other doorways of innovation, creativity, opportunity. And so I feel like that's an area for me that is always sort of an undertone in my work, but really more so lately with COVID kind of putting a magnifying glass on it.
So tell us about this new vision that you have. Like, what's your vision for the next 5 years?
The next 5 years. I'm a believer that we have so much more control in some ways than we realize we do. And also a believer that we don't have control in a lot of other ways. And I really feel like this is a time over the next couple of years, because it is very uncertain. We could look at any point in history and say things were uncertain, they weren't clear. But we have never collectively been through something like COVID or this kind of a thing at this level. And I feel like the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot more restructuring. We're going to see inspiration. We're going to see creativity kind of peak in a way that hasn't happened before, because there wasn't the same type of catalyst that we have right now. And even though there is that uncertainty, when people start to use their mind and their brain and consciousness in a different way to enhance a situation, to bring a resolution to a problem, I feel like it opens up so many other doors. And I really feel like the next couple of years, it's gonna be a little bumpy, I think, as we're figuring these things out. But I think we're gonna see new ways of doing things, conducting business, having experiences, because everything had to kind of be rerouted, if that makes sense. And it's gonna be, I think it's exciting if we can look at that piece of it and bring our attention there, because most things that have happened throughout history, if you look at just inventions and creative solutions, there's always a challenge. There was always an opportunity or a struggle. And I just feel like this is a different version of that for us that's going to unleash a whole other level of genius in a lot of ways.
Yes, I think you're onto what's unfolding right now. Okay, let's talk about your own growth. We have a little bit, but tell us, what's the best advice you ever received?
You know, I've always heard, and I'm sure many others too, have heard over and over again, everything is within you, everything is within you. And that used to really frustrate me because I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like I had access to whatever that is. And it wasn't until I became like a seeker and started going through courses and trainings and programs and classes, and I've done all these retreats, and I kept consuming knowledge and consuming information as if it was going to be the key to me getting something that I hadn't had before. And all of that information actually continued to frustrate me because I had heard it, I had seen it, I had experienced it. You know, you get to a point where you're just hearing the same things over and over again. And finally I was like, what am I not understanding? And I was missing the application of what I knew. I was missing the integration of information. I kept it all in my head, and that was helpful to a degree, but then to apply it in my life and business was a whole other experience. Doing the things we know, showing up, you know, putting ourselves out there, starting our day a certain way. There's all of the practices and the things that I knew would enhance my life and business, and finally just taking the initiative to step by step become more aware of what I wanted to actually create. I guess you could say I became more intentional. And when I became more intentional is when everything began to come together. Clients started coming in, money started increasing, confidence came with it. There was a sense of emotional freedom with that.
Yes.
That's what I feel like is truly financial freedom, is having emotional freedom.
Beautiful.
It was being able to become more intentional that I think brought everything together in a way that became more tangible, in a way that the knowledge couldn't give me that experience.
Yes. So what would you say your biggest personal development or biggest personal growth leap has been in all of this? Because you've been growing like crazy since you started this.
Absolutely. You know, there's a couple of pivotal moments that I had, but there was one in particular. I was listening to, I have lots of people that inspire me, lots of different authors and people out there that inspire me. But there were two particular individuals that I had recently heard two different talks from, and they said the same thing. And they essentially said in their own voice, I'm willing to make a fool of myself. And that's one of my greatest gifts. And I thought, they're willing to make fools of themselves. That's interesting, but it's what I needed to hear, because I was so guarded and so afraid and feeling like I have to get it right. I have to say it right. I have to do it right. All this external pressure I was putting on myself. And that is really why I had the fear of public speaking and the fear of being visible and being seen. And when I heard these individuals say that, it was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what would happen if I could release this perfectionism and allow myself to kind of make a fool of myself and have more fun. And the relief that came with that, it's almost as if it also took with it some limitations, resistance, emotional baggage, and it really allowed me to be more myself. And that in turn gave me this ability to become a bit more magnetic with my people, or with people that were drawn to my work or hearing me speak or share. And I just realized, like, that's one of the greatest things we can do is be ourselves. And it sounds so obvious and simple, but I feel like the action of that is a little bit more difficult. So when I was just inspired by those individuals saying, you know, I'm not afraid to be silly and goofy and make a fool of myself. And it touched my heart, and it really helped me to put down some of the barriers and the masks and the personas, and, you know, thinking this is how I need to be or how I should be. And really letting go of that has been transformational in my life and my business. Like,
yes,
doing more work, just letting go of that was amazing.
I love that so much. Like, that's one of the main things I teach people. My tagline is be real, take a stand, change lives. And it's so interesting how much we shield who we really are for many different reasons. And then we finally just let it rip, and everything we wanted is right there.
Right.
Nobody knew it though, because we were hiding.
Exactly. And don't you find that, like, it's interesting because I feel like we think we're doing this thing to protect us from the world. Yeah. But I also feel like part of that is hiding us from other parts of ourselves too, that we can embrace and acknowledge that we're just like, oh my gosh, it has been here all along, but even I couldn't access that because I was hiding or scared or not willing to be seen.
I think so. And I think that a lot of times it's our greatest gifts, and that we're just really afraid of our own power, you know, what we could actually contribute.
Yeah.
And I see it with my clients once they open up. It's like, oh, it was only resistance of my own truth that I was using to sabotage myself. And I thought it was all about the outside world and these people and those things that I didn't know and the certifications I don't have.
Right. Oh my God. That's why I joke around. That's why it's in my bio that I have like 37 or whatever certifications, because at first people are like, oh, that's amazing. I'm like, no, let me explain. That's from not believing in who I was. That's a result of not being confident or feeling like there was something out here that I needed to make me more whole and complete.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What about tools and resources? What kind of gadgets or tools do you use to make your life easier?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things I use. So I have an hourglass sand timer that I use, and it's just fun. It's a little break from the alerts on the phones and the computers. And a lot of times I'll shut all of that off and I turn my little sand timer over, and whatever I want to do in that time, I'm focused. So I might be working on a chapter in a book. I might be creating a program. I might be putting something together, but it's peaceful. I really believe that we need breaks throughout our day that help the nervous system to decompress and to kind of let go and stabilize. And so it's a way to stay focused for me without it feeling so invasive or hurried. Like it's not pressure filled. So a sand glass timer is one of my favorites. And I have all different ones I've gotten on Amazon and, you know, found some in different antique shops and things like that too. But that's probably one of my most favorite that I use for my business. Another thing, I love my AirPods. It sounds silly. I've been listening to podcasts, meditations. I go for a hike almost every day if I can. And one of the things I love to do is listen to an audiobook or a podcast while I'm hiking, because then I'm giving my brain, my mind something to do while I'm moving my body.
Yes.
As entrepreneurs or people that are, you know, just constantly in your mind and creating, I have to have those little moments of just time where I'm still doing something. I feel like I'm still connected and I'm still working towards something, but not as much in my mind. And so just things like that, meditations or audiobooks or things that still kind of nurture me in that way, but give me a break as well, are so important.
Yeah. So what are you listening to? What podcasts, what audiobooks or reading?
So many. What am I listening to? I just finished listening to a book by Matt Kahn. It's called Love Whatever Arises. That was really beautiful. It's all about how to release stored emotion and things within the body that lead to limiting beliefs and stuff like that. That was an excellent book. I just re-listened to Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, one of my favorites, which is releasing resistance and creativity and all of that. And then a third one, I listen to multiple books. Like always reading 3 things or listening to 2 different things. Another one is, I believe it's by Carl Greer, and it's all about Carl Jung and the archetypes and how archetypes affect us, but from an energy and psychology approach. Really fascinating stuff.
That's fun to dive into.
Absolutely.
So, looking back, if you were to do it all over again, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, to not be so afraid, not be so afraid, and not to work so hard. So much of that effort was out of fear. Always doing, having to keep all these like wheels in motion when half of those wheels never came into being. But a couple of them, a couple of those projects were all I really needed. And they were the ones I was the most passionate about that worked. But I feel like when I began as an entrepreneur, I felt like, okay, well, I've got to make money. I've got to do this. I've got to pay bills. Like, a lot of people, what we think and feel. And if I could have just really honored my knowing, my intuition, I would have picked the perfect projects. They were the ones that always came together with such ease. I still put energy and effort into them, but they weren't so difficult. They weren't so challenging. The obstacles looked different. The obstacles were usually filled with an opportunity to learn something versus feeling like really stuck, like things just weren't coming together. And I really wish I would have paid attention sooner to the difference in those two, because it was sort of like, it was just my own intuitive way of knowing where to go, what to pay attention to, how to create. And I feel like if we know ourselves on that level, we can sort of trace these experiences and pay attention. And the things that had more ease and joy were the things that brought me more financial success, but emotional fulfillment too. Versus things of like, I have to do this. This is what everybody else is doing, and building these funnels and these systems and these things. And it's like, a lot of that didn't work the way it should have, according to others and experts and what have you. But really just honoring my path and what felt right and what was coming together and what really brought me joy too. I feel like that's why I wanted to become an entrepreneur to begin with. I really wish I would have honored that, 10, 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing this. I love that you do this work and you're bringing all these people together to learn from one another. And it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Hello and welcome. I'm recording this episode from my home office during self-quarantine as we were all asked to stay home due to the coronavirus. If you like what you hear and you'd like to hear more, please join me in my Facebook group. It's called The Unleashed Entrepreneurs. You can search that on Facebook. Come on over. It's a community of thriving entrepreneurs making a difference in the world, doing what they love, and changing lives. Hope to see you there. Enjoy the show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have you ever wondered what you could do to make your own business and grow it online? Head on over to pattykeating.com and take the entrepreneur code. You'll discover your unique value, your personality style, and how you can combine those two into a thriving business that helps people and lets you make money doing what you love. I'll see you there. Bye for now.